podcast1.com production.
He started in a small town in Texas. Worked his ass off to become one of the most famous wrestlers of all time.
We're gonna take care of business tonight, and that's the bottom line.
And now he's dominating the world of on-demand audio. And he's doing it for the working man.
This is a damn good outlet for me to spew the bullshit off my brain.
Yeah! This is the Steve Austin Show. Unleashed.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California today. I'm sitting here at 317 Gimmick Street. And I tell you what, I got a hell of a podcast for your ass today. Joining me here, live and in living color, face to face, head to head, eye to eye, man to man. I sit here and shoot the breeze with the Brian Kendrick from WWE. He's been kicking ass and lighting it up on 205 Live, and it's a guy I've been wanting to talk to for a long time. I've been watching his work in the ring, and I really like what I see. I've been listening to his promos, and I like what I hear. Turns out the sumbitch lives damn near across the street from me. Hell, he walked over here to 317 Gimmick Street. So anyway, I ain't going to waste time. I'm not going to sit here and flap my gums. The conversation's going to last about an hour and 15, about an hour and 20 minutes. So ain't no sense in me sitting here flapping my gums. Let's jump right into the podcast. I'm talking to WWE superstar, the Brian Kendrick. Hell, I'm sitting across there from the Brian Kendrick. Should I call you the or Brian?
You can call me whatever you like. Honestly, yeah, I still can't believe I'm sitting here.
God dang it. Yeah, you came over and you came bearing gifts. You brought me a bottle of whiskey and a couple of Broken Skull IPAs. Did you know that that's the best IPA in the United States of America?
I just found out after having my first sip about 45 seconds ago.
The Brian Kendrick just got hit by a liquid stone cold stunner. And that's the bottom line because I said so. Man, I've been reading about you all morning, and I've had your number forever. I got it from William Regal.
Is that right?
Yeah, a very close friend of mine. I know you two are very good friends as well.
Sir.
So I got your number from him, and I'd been sitting on it, and I said, God dang. I said, I've been wanting to talk to this guy forever. So I finally, gave you a call and said, hey, man, left you a message. Were you just coming into town? Right now, we're talking on a Wednesday afternoon. This podcast drops Thursday or whenever you download it. When'd you get into town?
Got in about landed like 8:45, got off the plane, a few minutes afterwards, listened to my message, and I thought it was a rib. I thought it was a, there's a few wrestlers that people like to do their impressions of, and you're one of them, and so I thought it was one of my friends screwing with me, and I still thought that even when I was walking over here, they could have gave me your address, and you would have said, who the hell are you, and I would have walked away with my tail between my legs. So I'm glad it's not a rib.
Hey, where'd you come from? Where was the loop?
Oh, Atlanta. Wasn't Charlotte. It was Greenville, South Carolina, and Atlanta.
How's the houses?
It's good. It's good.
Was it television taping or just house shows?
Just TV. So I'm part of the Cruiserweights at 205. So we do Raw because we're part of the Raw brand, and then we do 205 after SmackDowns. So right now it's 2 days a week. It's so easy. I love it, and I get to see both rosters, so it's really nice.
Hey, man, what are you doing on your spare time? Well, before we get there, man, here's the thing. I called Brian up. I said, dude, where you live? I said, I know you live in L.A., but you're also down there in Florida sometimes. He goes, no, man, I'm in L.A. I said, well, where do you live? I live in Venice. Well, dude, I live in Marina Del Rey. There's one road between our house, which is the dividing line between Venice and Marina Del Rey.
Yeah.
And it turns out if I threw a rock twice, I would hit your house.
Yes, sir.
How could you have lived here 6 or 7 years or 8 years, whatever it's been? I've been here 10 years next door. How can it be that we have not crossed paths? Are you big as a hermit as I am, or are you always on the road?
No, I'm more of a hermit. I don't do much outside hanging out with my wife. Train kids on Thursdays. Other than that, I don't leave the house unless it's to go eat, grocery store, gym, tanning. And looking at my skin, I don't tan that much. So, yeah, I don't leave very much.
So what do you do in your spare time? I mean, I want to get to the school here in a little bit, but I mean, dude, you got hobbies? I mean, there ain't a whole lot doing this concrete jungle. For me, I got a shooting range that I go to. I got a place to go out and ride my Kawasaki mules where we film Broken Skull Challenge. But that's fighting traffic to get there. So left to your devices, what do you do in your spare time? Do you just hang with the wife, or where do you train?
So I train out in Bell Gardens, where the 105 and 710 hit. In my spare time, I try to do different projects. I've been, for a few years, trying to create a kids show with live-action puppets that wrestle in a kid's imagination, good versus evil. It's nonsense I've been working on for years. Run a promotion called Wrestling Pro Wrestling. It's just a comedy promotion. And try to occupy myself with goofy little habits and conspiracy theories and just nonsense. Yeah.
What kind of conspiracy theories?
Oh boy, it changes day to day. You know, flat Earth has been a big one recently. Mandela effect is a real fascinating one. I don't know if you're familiar with the Mandela effect.
No, smart me up about it.
Okay, so like for example, do you know Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs?
Yes.
So do you remember when the witch would confer to the mirror and she would say something to the mirror, who's the fairest of them all? Do you remember what she would say?
No.
Okay, so they even made a movie about it called Mirror Mirror. So Mirror Mirror on the Wall. But then if you go look at your VHS, it says Magic Mirror on the Wall. But everybody remembers Mirror Mirror on the Wall. Or there was a family of bears. Became an animated series. It was books. And everybody remembers Berenstain Bears, but it's Berenstain Bears. So it's the idea that physical reality doesn't exist and there's two different realities blending together. And so there's dozens of these examples of us either misremembering or physical reality changing around us.
Man, that's some high-level stuff. You're over my head already, D. Brian Kendrick.
Yeah.
Damn, you call a high spot I can't understand. I'm going to ask you here. Okay, here's a question. I'm calling this Summits in the Ring. I told Brian I was going to tone down the language. He's a WWE superstar. This is my Unleashed show. He can speak how he wants. He's a grown man. But how in the hell did you end up out here in Los Angeles, California, out of Virginia?
So grew up out in Virginia. My father turned out was some charlatan. He scammed his way into some job in Canada. Things went wrong between him and my mom. We moved to Washington State. From there, went and trained in Texas, Texas to Memphis, Memphis to L.A. when I got released, L.A. to Cincinnati, bounced all over, and then finally in Florida. And then my wife wanted to pursue a makeup career, which kind of dematerialized, never really happened, but it was an excuse to move out to L.A.
God dang, man, you got gypsy all over you, bouncing all over the place.
Yes,
Pro wrestling business was seemed like a great destination for you. Hey, when you end up in Washington, you went to grade school all through there. Did you graduate high school over there?
Yes, sir.
So, man, what kind of student were you? Were you good on the books, and did you play sports?
I was a C- student. I did a little bit of wrestling in high school, and if I said I had a 500 record, I'd be exaggerating. I was a lousy athlete, lazy student.
Dude, you're a bad athlete. You're a great athlete inside the ring.
Oh, I appreciate it. I dedicated myself to it. I guess my best attribute would be that I tried not to let anybody outwork me. So I was fortunate enough to be in there with Daniel Bryan. We were in the same class, and he's a maniac, so I wanted to keep up with him, and that got me going. Trained at Shawn Michaels School, so that's we had our coach Rudy Boy, who was always there to open the doors. We had Shawn Michaels, just having that aura, making me want to work harder than William Regal in Memphis. So I'm a terrible athlete, but I pushed myself to at least fake it.
Hey, man, when you was growing up down there in Virginia and you moved over to Washington, so were you always a fan of the business?
Oh,
but
yes,
you
sir.
talk about you being a historian here and a fan of the history of the business of pro wrestling.
Yeah. I make my students always watch stuff all the time.
Okay, so when did you start watching?
The one that got me was WrestleMania 6, going over to a friend's house. Hogan Warrior walked in just as they were coming down to the ring, and I said, I want to be that guy, Ultimate Warrior. I want to be just like him. And just started gobbling up VHS tapes. Now with the internet and with the network, this is going to sound ridiculous. But I'll go ahead and kiss your ass. Besides bringing your brand of beers, I watched you and Brett WrestleMania 13 2 hours ago. I think it's the best art in the planet. I adore it, and I try to consume as much as I can.
Hey, man, what'd you think about 13?
That match?
Yep.
I tell my students what I think is the way that you could have a guy become solidified as a babyface, and this guy who's been a babyface for so long switches a heel. I don't know if that's ever been done. Certainly hasn't been done better than that. I think it's a piece of art. I think it's unbelievable.
And leading into that match, Brett had so much success. He had been around for such a long time, never missed shots. But then at one time, he kind of started just, kind of pissing and moaning a little bit. Yeah. So that's why, Vince had that tale of maybe him being able to switch heel. I was talking so much trash, backing it up. The crowd was starting just to gravitate towards that trash talking, that ass whooping, and something that you could buy into. Yeah. So he saw the vision there. So I got to give Vince credit there. But there was work done on the front end there just by the way things were transitioning and the way the business had kind of kept swinging. And then we did the match. We executed it, and I dare say with perfection. Ken Shamrock was a great special enforcer referee, did a great job in that match with everything that he did. Towards the back end of that match, I left as I did. And then when the altercation happened between Brett and Ken, when Brett kept kicking me when I was down, I was passed out, still in that pool of blood. And then belly to back to him, and then challenged him, and then Brett backed off.
Yeah.
He didn't accept the challenge, so then he kind of cowarded his way out, was kind of just, MFing people on the way up, flipping the finger to people. We had work on the backside to do for me to continue that swing as a baby and for, Brett to get there as a heel. But, yeah, the match was part of that process. But I'm glad you dug that match, and it was one of the greatest matches I ever had in my life. And I always give, a big tip of my hat to Bret the Hitman Hart because he's one of my favorites of all time before that match.
I think it's one of the greatest matches of all times. I mean, so I'm a fan for so many reasons, but what I like about you particularly is the way you move and the energy with which you do everything. And so I think, the product has changed as far as it's PG now, and they've got to try to sell it in China and India, and there's all these reasons it can't be the same. But I don't think it's entirely that. I think it's that you're magic in a bottle. You know what I mean? Everything that you did, the way you moved, if there was people who were that genuine today, the houses would be selling out all over again, I think.
Man, I think the business has changed. And so, to your point, I think I did come around, the right guy at the right time. But, man, that whole locker room and just the way they call it the attitude era, the way it spun up and just everything kind of redlined. And it was a great time in the business. I think everything happens for a reason. But, hey, you mentioned Daniel Bryan.
Yes, sir.
When you say he was a maniac, was he just like a guy that was so enamored with the business, just had this insatiable hunger to learn and get better, and that's who was also you were kind of in competition with him, it sounds.
Yeah, it was. There was never any animosity. We were never against each other.
No, but it was good competition.
Yeah, he was a driving force for me. If he wasn't around, I don't know. For me to work harder than the next guy, if he wasn't the next guy, I wouldn't have had to work nearly as hard. He absolutely loves wrestling. He had all these tapes from Japan, stuff I wasn't even aware of at the time because the internet was dial-up, and this is when I first got to watch, All Japan Heavyweights, which I adore today, and it made me look at wrestling a whole different way. And I'm forever grateful for the way things worked out, that we wound up being in the same place. And he's also from small-town Washington. It just, the stars aligned.
How in the world, okay, when you pick Shawn Michaels and Rudy Boy Gonzalez, and I've heard that guy's name, for a million times. Of course, I know Shawn very well. Man, coming out of Washington, did you go all the way down to Texas, or was there a transition between Washington and Texas?
I went to Texas prior to that to go to NWA Southwest.
What is that? Was that a federation or was that school?
It was both. They had their own school. Did a couple matches, and then I was determined to go find Jose Lothario because I was just some dumb kid, and I saw the videos, and he must be out there. I want to be a great wrestler. This is the only trainer I've heard of who trained Shawn Michaels. I want to be good, and as luck would have it, Jose and Sean started the school together. By the time Sean accepted out-of-state students, Jose had been released, but I would have rather trained under Sean than Jose anyway. So he got a lot of hungry people from around the world, or I guess just hardcore fanatics who wanted to meet Shawn Michaels, but I wanted to be a wrestler. So did Brian.
Well, before you got to Shawn Michaels School, you were in the federation you just named. So where was your first training then?
That would have been in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Under who?
It was under Chris Germany and Kit Carson, couple local guys up there.
Hold it. Chris Germany was in the Chris Adams School of Professional Wrestling with me.
Yeah?
Yes. And so I know the guy from back in the day. I hadn't seen him in a million years.
Yeah.
I saw he had a couple of matches, over the years. But, yeah, I know who Chris Germany is.
Small world.
Yeah.
That's
How in the
crazy.
hell did you find him?
It was the only school that would return my applications. I was this 5'7", 140-pound kid that wanted to be a wrestler, and I figure nowadays they'd take you if you had 3 legs or no legs. They just want your money, but it was a little different then. But they treated me good, very nice, good training. But I also realized that a lot of with everything is connections, and if you can find somebody who's had great success on top of having the connections, they can tell you how to get there and they can help you get there. So it was a no-brainer.
Tell me about the difference in the Chris Germany School versus the Shawn Michaels Academy.
So NWA Southwest, it was 1 day a week, 3 hours. Sean's school was 3 days a week for 3 hours, but they let me stay as long as I wanted. So the first day I was there 90 minutes early, Rudy showed up 30 minutes later. So he kept showing up an hour early every time, and he would let me stay 2 hours late, and I would show up 6 days a week instead of 3, and so I crammed in 3 times the amount of training as I could have. Yeah, that was a big difference, and of course just the experience that Shawn Michaels has. He's one of the greatest of all times, heel, face, you name it, and just getting to learn from him and Rudy, I wouldn't have traded it for anything.
Man, I've always said Shawn Michaels is the greatest in-ring performer I've ever seen. Whether it's a house show in BFE or on a big stage at a WrestleMania. His nickname isn't Mr. WrestleMania for no reason. He's just a lights-out performer. So, man, you spent a lot of time in there with Rudy Boy Gonzalez, and then Shawn would come in. How hands-on was Shawn? What did you learn from him? I'm imagining you're getting a lot of mechanics, a lot of chain wrestling and stuff from Rudy, and then Shawn as well. But is Shawn bringing the 201 psychology?
Shawn was there every day for those 3 hours, and he would say stuff. This was right after his back surgery, after you guys did 14. But he would tell Rudy what to do. Rudy would demonstrate, and he was the one that I didn't know what psychology was. I didn't know you got to pick him up to bring him down and get sympathy and all this stuff. And he's the one that explained this and would get fired up, which would scare me straight. And so yeah, his besides the mechanics, it was really his psychology, the storytelling, and then Rudy would help Daniel Bryan and I fine tune our mechanics and the storytelling.
So, do you still have your wrestling school?
Yeah, it's just for graduates, so I just do it. I don't charge them. It just keeps me in a ring every week, and come in just on Thursdays. That's all we do it, and I just do fine-tuning stuff right now.
What size ring you guys working in?
16 by 16.
God dang.
Yes,
yeah, that's a fun ring.
Yeah, with those metal ropes all duct taped up, and oh yeah.
Yeah, but if you blow up at a 16-footer, boy, when you get that 20, you're really going to blow up.
Oh, what a difference
and
does that make?
And the 16-footers are fun, because the action is a lot quicker, and the steps are so much easier to each rope. And then you get in a 20-footer, and you never want to go back. But back in the day, we'd go on some of those tent shows and get a chance to work those 16-footers back in the day, some of the real small house shows in the Northeast. And I'd be out there working with Aldo Montoya, and man, we'd be having an absolute blast just because of the sound effects and the efficiency of a 16-foot ring. Yeah. I could almost I could put one here in my living room, but I barely could put one maybe, but I couldn't do a backdrop or anything.
No,
but God dang, it'd be fun to have one here. Where did you find that ring at? Because it's not like just go on Craigslist and say, hey, man, I'm looking for a 16-foot wrestling ring.
I lucked out. There's this local school, the Santino Bros, and they said, hey, do you mind if I rent out some space during the week? They're not doing anything during the days. And they said, hey, come on in. And so I'm grateful for them, Joey Chaos and Sylvia. They welcomed me in, open arms, and gave me something to do when I was on my butt. And so I'm always indebted to them. It's their ring, it's their school, all of it. Yeah.
When the people show up, how many people y'all got showing up down there on Thursdays and going through the paces?
Probably 8 to 10 usually. Yeah.
Are these accomplished people?
Most of them have worked a match or two at least. Some of them have been wrestling for years. A couple of my students just went down to Mexico this week to work for Ultimo Dragons promotion in Mexico City. So they're doing real well. The other ones are just putzing around here in the local indies like you do when you start.
Hey, man, you've been all over the place. What'd you tell them kids going down in Mexico? I mean, there's a little bit of a language barrier there.
Yeah, luckily one of them speaks fluent Spanish.
Okay.
What I would tell any of them, just listen. Just do what, learn the lucha style, That's what you're down there for. You're not there to teach them. You're there to learn. You're young, gain some experience from it. And be polite, be respectful, and say hi to Ultimo Dragon for me. And they did good.
William Regal was a part of your training.
Oh, yeah.
When did you cross paths with him? Because when he first came over from England, I was down in WCW. It was in the early 90s. I've told this story many times, but I'll tell you because I'm sitting here across the table from you. And he's coming in as Lord William Regal. I can't remember if they put Dundee with him at this time or not. And he goes out there, and I'm thinking, hey, man, who's this guy from England? And he goes out there, and it might have been a WCW center stage TV taping or something. But I watched this guy work, and God dang, he was selling his ass off and had this mean streak. And I was like, hey, man, this guy's different. This guy's really, really good. And so I went over to him after the match and said, hey, man, that was a badass match, and introduced myself to him. And we became travel partners and lifelong friends. So what did William Regal teach you?
So what I've learned from him the most is try to look at everything logically. So to me, I don't see the point of shooting somebody into the ropes. I'll shoot him to a buckle because that would hurt. But it's a bird in the hand for two in the bush. If I've got him right here, what am I going to shoot him off for? And well, it's because we've got to get that bend in the road. We got to switch things up, and now you got to get in control at least for a second. But I try to find clever ways around it and try to make sense of everything. And his big example is tackle, drop down, leapfrog. And if you're going to give the guy a tackle, what are you hitting the ropes for? Well, you're going to drop a knee on his head, and what's he doing? Well, he's dropping down in front of you. It's not to trip you, but it's the only way you can avoid him, because if you sit up, you're going to get kicked. If you go the other way, he's going to drop the knee. But if he turns around, you're at his feet, he's going to have to jump over you, and to try to pick apart everything. And so he's probably been the biggest influence for me in my style of wrestling, just try to look at everything absolutely logically. Which is, it's a business with clowns, and I get it, but yeah, it's. And
sometimes you need sound logic in a match, but also sometimes you have to throw it out the window a little bit just for the sake of, hey man, this is what it is. We need some motion here. But ways to avoid just sending somebody in is just for somehow them to reverse something and grab you in the headlock. So then that gives you a reason, because you don't want to be under their control.
That's right.
So same thing as sending somebody in. Whether you grab them by hand or they got a headlock. Boom, you send them in the ropes, there's your high spot.
That's right.
Or there's your movement, there's your motion. Okay, tackle, okay, now he's going this way, what's going to happen? I got to drop down, and I'm going to leapfrog him. What's happening? It's a string of sequences trying to really outmaneuver or fool this guy into whatever happens on the end of the high spot.
Yeah, and taking everything each step at a time, not thinking tackle, drop down, leapfrog, hip toss, but the purpose and the intent behind all of it. And let's see it with your face and with your body and react to everything that's happening.
It's like an offensive football play, man. I mean, it's like if a lineman fires off, he's got to get a chip block. He gets his first guy, and then he's going to chip somebody off. And then if the play goes downfield, he's going to try to knock somebody else down. So, it's a strategy, it's a plan, it's part of a match. God dang, got me all excited about the business. Who was influential in you creating the style that you use?
Boy, It's kind of a mishmash of all of it. Regal a lot with the psychology of making everything mean something. Shawn Michaels with the storytelling, and I watch a lot of Japanese wrestling as well. And Regal will knock the taste out of your mouth too. So it's that same style of making everything look like it hurts, and if it hurts, then it hurts. It's let it hurt. And building up the drama of all that. And so I kind of try to pick something from everybody. I mean, my favorite, like I said, Ultimate Warrior made me fall in love with it. And then Coco Beware was my favorite as a kid. I adored him. And I don't know if anybody would guess that those are what influenced me, but it's seeing how varied the art form can be and realizing you can do anything with it.
I told a good friend of mine I was going to be talking to you today, and I just got finished watching some live 205 stuff from you. That hell of a damn match with
Tozawa. Yes,
Tozawa.
Mm-hmm.
And I missed the street fight. I was trying to Google that thing on the network. It wouldn't play it for me. I was just watching the match you had with Tozawa, and that he got a victory over you. It was a damn good match, which led to a street fight. What happened in the street fight because I couldn't find it on the network?
So since it's a PG era now, stuff like chairs we couldn't use, kendo sticks we couldn't use because there's a kendo stick match coming up. So we had to get creative. I found duct tape, taped his mouth shut because I used a chokehold. I had to tie him up with duct tape and beat him with my belt. Then he started whipping me in the face with my belt. Ultimately, he came off the post, since we got those fat LED posts.
Yep.
Came off the top of that, gave the old senton through a table on the floor. Both died, rolled me in, 1, 2, 3. But I was really happy to do it, and I get excited about. I don't want to do a hardcore match all the time, but we've been building this for 3 months, and the idea that this is going somewhere and we're gonna beat the hell out of each other. So I asked him whip me in the face with the belt because it's nasty, and I'm looking forward to it.
One of the things I liked about that match with Tozawa, before you got to the street fight, you were working basically, it's almost like a rear chin, kind of like a camel, kind of like a sharpshooter type thing. But the way you had him hooked, whether it was like this, and I'm demonstrating with Brian, or you had him hooked this way, but you're pulling at his nose, you're pulling at his ear, you're getting anything you can. The referee's doing a good job of getting you off of it. But that, to me, it's a mean streak. Like, hey, man, this dude's trying to hurt this guy, and you don't see put it this way, you don't see everybody trying to do that. That was one of the finer points that I enjoyed about just not you being sitting there in a static hold that almost everybody uses. You had good torque on his back. It looked painful. And so I was just enjoying it. And to his credit, I mean, he was selling his ass off, as were you when he was on offense. And the way the finish went down, the way you got the heat afterwards and incorporating the steps, great piece of business. I enjoyed the shit out of it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I don't think it's a shame that we got to the point where it's called a rest hold, but I think that's on the performers for resting in those holds instead of showing that you're trying to. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to catch your breath, or are you trying to cut the oxygen off from them? You're trying to do something with it, and guys in the hold aren't moving around. Guys in the hold aren't moving around, and so I don't feel anything. And people will respond. They'll start chanting names because they know that'll get you to get up and start running a spot again, but it doesn't mean they care. That's just the way of saying, "Come on already."
No, that's just a great point. It's a work hold. It's not a rest hold. I mean, because I'll tell you what, man. When I first came to WWF way back in the day, I just come from ECW. My tricep was still kind of reattaching. I had about 3 matches in ECW, and when I came in WWF, dude, I was out of shape because I wasn't in ring shape. I started working with Savio Vega. Do you know him?
I've never met him, but I remember the matches.
Okay, man, Savio could work his ass off, and I love that guy. And, man, all of a sudden I get in there with him, And God dang, he's Puerto Rico. He's old school. He's going to get his shit in. And I was working Hill, so I was shining him up. And then during the heat, rather than beat the shit out of him and just kill him, I was laying in a rest hold. I was laying in a reverse chin lock and just laying there huffing and puffing because I knew I was going to lay there for about 4 or 5 minutes, do an arbitrary thing to him, and then I was going to have to flip-flop and fly because Savio Vegas from Puerto Rico, he's old school. He's going to get his shit in, and he's going to make a full-blown comeback, even if I just lay in the heat. So I tell you what, after working with that guy for 2 months, he got me in the best shape of my life. And then I was able to, from those points on, work in that hole. Because to your point, there is a lot of that. And it's kind of just seems like not lost on this generation, but kind of lost in translation. It ain't a rest hold. It's a work hold. You're trying to punish a guy, but it's got to look like you're trying to punish him. And I go back to some of the stuff that I was able to, I didn't say get away with, but some things I did and kind of use those as rest holds. Sometimes when I watch my old shit, I'm like, dude, what were you thinking? Because now, still being a student of the game, being very critical of what I did, now some of it was really, really good. But some of it, I say, man, you could have really improved on that. When you're backstage, who do you confide in? Or do y'all still talk about? You got, hey man, god dang, that was a damn good match. What if you'd have done this?
So I just turned 38 this week, and the old man in me, the complaint I have is there isn't that anymore. So I go and I harass the agents. And I'll sit, they've got Gorilla, then there's a monitor outside of Gorilla, there'll be an agent there, and I'll go sit next to the agent unless another agent needs a seat. I'll start picking brains. This week it was Rotundo. Earlier it was Paul Heyman. But whoever's there, Dean Malenko, I'll start pestering them. And I see guys walk by, they're not asking anybody for advice, and when I was there before, I remember Chris or Eddie, I'd get to the back and I would ask them in advance, if you have time, would you please watch this match? And they always would. And when I get back, sometimes they'd be screaming in my face, you're doing a tornado DDT, it's not the finish, you're killing the business, and blah, 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 blah. And now it's gone. So I'm stuck with just talking with agents. When Goldust is there, if he has a chance to watch, I'll pick his brain. I've been lucky enough to have Rhino watch a match. Maybe it's just me getting old, but I think that that's getting lost, unfortunately, is asking these vets who've had success, who've been around and done it all, who drew money, picking their brain, and even if it's, you're in a headlock and you get pushed back to the ropes and you let go of that headlock to get shot off. Why would you let go of the head? But nobody cares. I'm not saying nobody cares, but the problem is they get back to the locker room. They've got their sweat and their opponent's sweat on them. They're not showering. They're looking their name up on Twitter. And so when they can hear all this positive feedback from fans, well, who cares what Dean Malenko has to say? That's not me saying this. This is the impression I get from them, and I think it's a shame.
Man, I tell you what, the thing about it is you got to have. It's the only way you can get better is by having a coach or someone who knows more than you, or who has been around for a long time, like you said, or drawn money. Because if it's always your peers. There's always guys on the road with you. Well, if you've got a guy who's been in the business 20 years, 25 years, and he's saying, hey, man, that was good. Why don't you do this? But, it's not like there's those guys around. And going back to, that's those agents. You got to seek those guys out. I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, hey, man, I'm just telling you some things that I absorbed, in I think I made about 14 years in the business. I said, I've been out forever, but I'm still a part of the business. I still watch it. I'm still a student of the game. So if I can give you, anything I can tell you, I said, this is just my opinion, but this is the way I see it. And so you can take whatever I'm telling you and say, hey, man, you know what, Steve's right. Or, 10%, I can use 10% of what he's saying. I can use 80% of what he's saying, or saying, God dang, why didn't I think of that? And I see what he's talking about. So every now and then I'll just kind of reach out to someone and say, hey, man, check this out. Because, dude, when you're in the grind, you're in the grind. And, you get involved in social media. I remember way back in the day when I first broke in. I'd only been in the business for 2 months. And Jerry Jarrett, I asked Jerry Jarrett, I said, God dang, Jerry, when can I start working full time? He says, hell, Steve, I think you're ready now. He goes, we'll send you to Memphis in a month. Hell, man, no, 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, I was driving to Mid-South Coliseum. Anyway, I've told this story a million times, too, but I go out there and wrestle a guy in a mask in Lebanon, Tennessee, and Dutch Mantel's the booker. And we go out there, and he says, go out there and give us about 8 or 10 minutes. So I went out there, 2 months in the business. You remember your attitude when you was 2 months in the business?
Oh, jeez. I remembered it 10 years in the business. I thought I knew it all. But 2 months in the business, I knew even more.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, I thought, well, what can I do for 8 to 10 minutes? That's a long time. But then also, I thought I was really, really good. And I was really stupid and really green.
Yep.
So we went out there and stunk the joint out. And I get back, and Dutch Mantel, this is straight up shoot. He goes, God damn. He goes, what the fuck was that shit? And I'm like, whoa, I was devastated. I'm thinking, that's wrestling.
Thought it was good.
Didn't we rip the roof off his motherfucker? So he goes, God damn. He goes, that was a drizzling shits. He goes, Chris Champion. Chris, come over here. He says, Steve, put a headlock on Chris. I put a headlock on Chris, and I was holding him way down here by my waist. He goes, God damn it. He goes, pull him up here so you can hear him. And he told me, he corrected me on a bunch of things. He pointed out a steel chair, and he goes, you see that chair? I said, yeah. He goes, you get that steel chair, and you sit in that door, and you watch every single match on the card. That's the only way you're going to learn this shit. And so then I was riding down the road with gorgeous Gary Young, Matt Bourne, Bronco Lubitsch, Skandar Akbar. Shit, man, I was either riding shotgun or was in the back seat. Man, I was listening, and I'd watch these guys' matches, and I'd like, hey, man, when y'all went into that one thing out of the headlocker, and I'd ask them, you know, what the hell, you know, why they did what they were doing, and they would tell me. And so, dude, here's guys that had 15 years in the business. I'm riding down the road with them. We're fortunate enough to be drinking some cold beer, and I'm like a sponge, and they're just throwing water and shit on there, and I'm just soaking it up. Riding with Tom Pritchard in the USWA, you know, hell, I can never forget. He said, hey, man, he goes, what's so stunning about stunning Steve Austin? And that was the first time that I'd had any kind of wherewithal or thought to what the hell a gimmick was supposed to be or a character.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, those guys, your phone just went off. You owe me, you already brought me a bunch of beer, but you owe my listeners a damn beer.
Oh, y'all a beer.
But I'm going back to your point. I went on a little bit of a rant there and a little bit of a tirade, but, man, you got to keep your eyes and ears open. As soon as you think you know it all, man, you don't.
That's it. You're an artist, right? You can look at it that way. And so I'm sitting here with Picasso and Rembrandt and Van Gogh, and I'm not going to ask them, you know, what inspired you to do this? Or I'm a quarterback, and I'm sitting there with Elway and Theismann and Namath, and I'm not going to ask them, you know, what do you do when you're in a pinch? It's crazy. But I guess that's just, like you said, I didn't think about this when I was younger. And I'm sure 5 years from now, I'm going to think I was garbage today. So I guess you always learn from your mistakes, but the fear is gone now. These guys are, let me put it this way. We were out having some drinks on Tuesday night, and Cena came by and talked with some of us 205 guys. And, man, I think the world to him. I think he's a genius. And he asked, how's my time around? This is my 4th time with the company. And I said, John, I love it. The only thing that bothers me is you got guys who are leaving. They're not on the show, so they're leaving before the show even starts. He says, it's a different era. Let them hang themselves. He didn't put it that way, but essentially, you know, if they want to learn, they're going to learn. There isn't, nobody's there to yell, and that's not the culture anymore, which is, I think, detrimental to the business, but good for the individuals who do want to ask and learn. So to me, it's sad to see it go. To have an Undertaker, a JBL, an Eddie, you'd be terrified not to watch the matches. Now, guys, I want to go to the hotel early. I don't get it, but
God dang, man,
I don't get it.
You a sports entertainer. Back in the day, I would have said a pro wrestler. It's all the same thing. Man, if you ain't on the card, you need to stick your ass around and watch the matches. Watch what the guys are doing. Listen to what the crowd's doing. Connect the dots and, you know, learn how to start working rather than painting by numbers and just, you know, setting shit up. Because you can have shit set up, but if it ain't working, you need to call something on the fly, call an audible, you know, get that crowd. Because, I mean, you can go out there and work your ass off. If you don't get that crowd, you just went out there and had a match, but you didn't connect. You got to learn how to connect. If your ass in a hotel room, you ain't going to connect with nothing. I want to ask you something. Tell me about the Kendrick. I want to get to your 4 times around, but the Brian Kendrick, man, because you light him up pretty damn good on a horn with a promo, and you always have. And you know, I meet you, or you came to the house, and you're a pretty low-key guy. You really amp it up out there with this antagonistic, abrasive, highly intelligent speaking.
Thank you.
You piss people off the way you talk. Tell me about your demeanor inside the ring with the horn in your hand, or just as a performer.
I guess what I do is first I try to figure out a way of speaking. And my wife wanted me to thank you, first of all, for the what chants. And these guys fall into the trap of watching wrestling so much that they mimic wrestling promos, so they start talking in a way where these what chants come in, and they don't know how to figure it out. So first I try to figure out a different way of a cadence that they might not be able to understand. So that's first and foremost, is trying to have a different delivery, because what you say sometimes just goes over people's heads anyways. And then if I'm allowed, I'll use words that go over their heads. And having one of these beers in, why am I Bockwinkel? It comes to mind. And the more I can delve into this character, and hopefully I can really fine tune it and get across the idea of why I'm angry, and hopefully that'll come out. Because the reason I am angry is because my first WrestleMania was WrestleMania 19 with the company. I've still never been on a WrestleMania. They've got 50 guys plastered on those trucks. My face has never been on one of those trucks. I've never had a Brian Kendrick T-shirt. And so this is what motivates the character, is that he's fueled by anger, but this anger comes from envy and jealousy, and these are not admirable traits.
Tell me about this pirate flag.
So I'm, in fact, wearing a Treasure Island shirt right now. I love pirates, always want to be one. And the idea is pirates take what they want. They want gold and glory, and they're just going to take it from you. And if you have it in your hand and I want it, I'm just going to take it and go ahead and stop me. And if we have to fight, we'll fight. And this is what we do for a living, is we fight. I'm willing to fight you for it, but I don't think you got the guts. Not you. I would never say you don't have the guts.
No, we're talking. I get you.
Say, yeah, they go ahead and stop me. And at the end of the day, I want to plant my flag here, that this place is mine. Now I've got a long ways to go, because I'm on 205, and I've got to take calculated risks. If you don't take risks, you won't get anywhere. But at 38 and my 4th contract here, I've got to tread lightly at the same time. But
you got to take a risk. But like you said, it's calculated. You're doing it, but with caution. Hey, there could be, blowback. There's going to be a response to that, but it's got to be the right kind of, opportunity that you seize, or how you perform.
Yeah.
Hey, man, let's take a pause for the calls for sponsors. Keep the show on the air for twice a week for free. 2 cans of audio whoop ass. Psh, psh. That was 2 beers open, Brian. For the working man, I'll come right back with the Brian Kendrick, talking about 4 times in the WWE. If you're in the market for a car, then you need to check out TrueCar. TrueCar gives you the price and information you need to feel confident about your purchase. And when you register with TrueCar, you'll see what other people in your local area paid for the car you want. And from there, you can connect with a local TrueCar certified dealer and enjoy a more confident car buying experience. TrueCar shows you real pricing on actual inventories, so you see competitive pricing offered to you by TrueCar certified dealers for vehicles that are actually on their lots. And you'll also see all the dealer incentives before you get to the lot, so you can feel confident about the price when you show up. TrueCar makes car buying easy, no matter if you're looking for a brand new or a used vehicle, and the stats don't lie. Over 3 million cars have been sold to TrueCar users by the TrueCar Certified Dealer Network. There's over 13,000 dealers in that network, with some 700,000 pre-owned vehicles available. So do yourself a favor and go to TrueCar for your next car buying experience. TrueCar doesn't just make the process easier, it'll also save you some money. TrueCar users save an average of over $3,000 off MSRP. So when you're ready to buy a new or used car, visit TrueCar to enjoy a better car buying experience. Some features not available in all states.
Hey guys, this is Chael Sonnen, and make sure you check out my podcast, You're Welcome. We talk about MMA, we talk about professional wrestling, politics, anything you need to know about today's top issues so that you can sound intelligent, and you get them all from me, your humble host, America's favorite gangster. Make sure you check me out. You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen. New episodes every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at Podcast One app, Apple Podcasts, and of course, podcast1.com.
All right, rolling sound here, 317 Gimmick Street. I'm looking at the clock. It's 2:45. Look at that damn Pearl Beer neon clock, Brian. Second hand, spin around like a rotisserie chicken. Isn't that a goddamn thing of beauty?
That's a beaut, yeah.
Hey, so how are you? You doing all right?
Life is good. Yourself?
You ready for part two?
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about it. Hey, man, you rolled up in WWE, 2002, 3?
Yeah, my first televised match would have been early 2003.
Hang on, let's go back. What about that? Was your debut riding that bike down, doing a singing telegram for Taker?
That was my first time on TV. Yes, sir. Yes,
okay,
sir.
Tell me about that, because you broke in, give or take, by 99, you're in. You went to Shawn Michaels Wrestling School. Okay, now you're in WWE. All of a sudden, they say, hey, man, you're going to do a singing telegram with The Undertaker.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman's doing the setup. Taker had a beef with the Big Show, and you rolled down there and you got to sing a damn thing to Taker. Give me the setup and what happened when you're getting the 411 about what you're supposed to do. Because you're a pro wrestler.
Yeah. So Bruce Pritchard had this idea. He said, I guess the boss might not have been sold on it, so I had to go interrupt the meeting and sing, I'm really, really sorry to interrupt the meeting. But I was 23 and I didn't know my head from my ass. So okay, and I went in, I interrupted it, and ha 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 goes the boss, and you're on. And then, all right, cool, I'm doing stuff with the Undertaker, awesome. But not realizing, like, that's not life every day there. I thought, okay, great. This is okay. I'm working with the Undertaker today. Next week, you and I will be working. I'll be working The Rock next month. I had no idea how ridiculous this scenario was. So it's still it's a moment that can't be taken away from me. I've been lucky enough to be in the ring with the Undertaker, who again, right there with Shawn Michaels, yourself, Ric Flair, The Rock. These larger-than-life wrestlers, these guys who are wrestling. And so if I did it now, I'd be way more nervous than if I was 23.
Would you do it now?
Oh, yeah. I would do anything now. I told the boss, when I talked with him recently, hey, maybe you need a haircut. I said, I'll shave my head. I don't care. Whatever you want me to do, I'll wear women's underwear. Just get me out there. Yeah, I'd be happy to do it now, yeah. So,
man, you're in, you're gone, you're back. The tag team with Paul London was great.
Thank you, sir.
And then the split, back with Ed Jackson is kind of your enforcer, and then split from him. But, man, what happened so many times coming and going? What was the downfall of Brian Kendrick?
Oh, well, the big one would have been after that after the split, and I got a great run as a singles thing, but only for a few months, and it was all on me. They had a drug policy, but I was a weed smoker, and so you're gonna find me, and I was happy to pay it. And Johnny Ace even brought me into the office, said, you've been fined 10 times, you could have bought a car. I said, Johnny, I got a car, I'd rather get high. And all you could do was kind of laugh, but I was an idiot. I'd show up, hungover, bad attitude. I thought because I was performing well in the ring, that's all it took. But it takes more than that. You got to be able to be on the Today Show. If we're gonna push you, you need to be a representative of the company, not good between the ropes. Who cares? And it took me years to realize that after getting fired, pointing the finger at everybody except myself, and it was always my own fault. And so ultimately, I was able to take ownership of that, stop smoking weed, to have this job back, to put away drugs, to realize that it's not my company, it's their company. I'm blessed to have the opportunity. If they want to give it to me, great. If not, it's their company. I'm still going to enjoy it. And through the cruiserweight tournament. I got a second chance, and that's mostly in part to William Regal kept pushing for me and pushing for the cruiserweights, and through that I was able to eke my way back in.
Are you dug in pretty good now? I've enjoyed the cruiserweight stuff. It looks like there's a bunch of talented guys in there now.
Thank you.
How's 205 Live? Is that a good atmosphere?
I love it. The guys all get along, which is huge. Where I think fledgling is the right word. Like we're trying to get something off the ground, and so since we're in that state, it's kind of an all-for-one sort of atmosphere that we need to work together. Now, if it becomes a huge success, I hope that doesn't mean that we'll start looking out for our own personal interests. I think we should all be our absolute best, but with the 205 being the goal, we get a lot of freedom. We got great agents.
You said you got freedom. I like to hear that. How much freedom you got?
And from the very first match I had there, the main event against Rich Swann, you guys got 20 minutes, and told Rich, like, this is what I'd like to do. And we were, with under a minute, I was dumping him on his head in something that could be a finish, and we're going to do 15 minutes of false finishes, but selling. So it might be 15 moves in 15 minutes, and they let us do it.
That's nice.
Yeah. I got to create my own kind of art, and the guys they want the psychology, they want the time for sound, the replays, all that stuff, but they're letting us go see what we can do.
God dang, man, I'm just thinking to myself while you're speaking, I'm thinking a pirate shirt would sell like a mug. Think about it, WWE. Think about a pirate shirt.
I've been pushing it.
316 worked 20 years ago. A pirate, I dig it. Like a Tampa Bay Buck merchandise. Come on now.
Thank you.
Shifting gears. Hey, man, you've been all over the place. How'd you like working over Japan?
I love it.
What about it? Because to me, it was a little bit more about the work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always about the work.
Sure.
But, I mean, you don't really get all the perks or the fringe benefits over there because you're there specifically to perform. But man, the work was very important.
Yeah, and it's not they're not going to be chanting along or doing the wave or any of that stuff. And they're going to sit, as you know, they're going to sit quietly until there's a certain point where they start rumbling their feet and going crazy. And so it's a different, to see how you can perform a different style to get those people to react who are hard to get a reaction from. Plus the physicality of it, I really like the drama of it. It's and just the culture itself, and being able to just show up and hop on a bus to get to work. So easy, yeah.
The crowd over there is a lot different than an American crowd. So when you first went over, or let me tell you, when I first went over there, I guess it was 93 or 94. I can't remember. It was WCW. I think I went to Japan, I think 3 times. But one time was a 3-week tour, and that's when I tore my tricep on day 3. 3 weeks with the torn tricep, D. Brian Kendrick ain't fun. God dang, if it hadn't been for Ron Simmons, Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, man, we drank. I don't know how much beer we drank on that tour, but all those guys had been over many times. Me and Arn and Ron, we was all stateside guys. So all of a sudden, we love being in Japan, but 3 weeks worth, I mean, like, God damn, I think we drank every Asahi in the country. But, when you go out there and you're used to a stateside crowd, I mean, you lock up with a good-ass lockup and, you can give someone a good tackle, you might have the crowd right then and there on the United States. All of a sudden, you get a little crowd going like, okay, man, we got these people. We're going to be a good match. It's going to be a good night tonight. Go to Japan. Hey, man, you go through that same few things, and they're like, hey, man, they're quiet as hell.
Oh, yeah.
We're shitting the bed.
Oh, yeah.
What are we supposed to do? It turns out, when you go out there and you're trying to follow, this is back in the day whether it was Benoit, Malenko, Guerrero, whatever, you can't follow those guys because you can't do what they do. So it turns out is you just do what you do. And so, but the first few times going out there in front of the Japan crowd, it'd make you shit your pants. How was it for you?
I lucked out. I was shocked by that, the difference of it. But the promoter Hashimoto, who was kind of like the Hulk Hogan of Japan, sold out Tokyo Dome 5 years in a row. He thought I looked like Leonardo DiCaprio.
You do.
Well, thank you. To the Japanese, I did anyways. Yeah. So he made me Leonardo Spanky because that was my indie name was Spanky, and came out to Titanic music, but I was booked based off of that. And I got to work some top-notch wrestlers and got to learn the style real quickly, so they knew what worked. And if we're working, we're working tonight. Sir, the reason I call you sir, the reason it's whatever you want to do. If you're going to say, okay, we got any ideas? I want to learn from you. So I did that with the Japanese, too. I wanted to learn from the Japanese. I was in good hands, and so I just put my faith in them, and 10 minutes would go by. They didn't care. The last 10 minutes, they were going crazy. But it took some getting used to, but I really like it.
How long have you been working heel now? You worked heel and baby, but which one do you prefer? I know what the answer's going to be.
I love being heel. I really do. I think I'm a better babyface. I just think that, and I guess I'm tooting my own horn. I think I'm a really good heel, but I think I'm a better babyface. I just don't think there's not as many good wrestlers today as there used to be. And so when babyfaces aren't, where you don't see them John Wayning through pain, I don't care. They're thinking a springboard makes you care instead of.
Dude, you're saying sell.
That's all I'm saying. The reason that you're there, not tapping out, trying to get up, almost getting that sharpshooter off you, and then right back into it, and the crowd is chanting your name at the end of it, is because you're selling. And we see that you're John Wayne, and you're going to have to kill me. And he had to kill you. And just having that emotion coming through, if more baby faces understood that, or more wrestlers, to me, and it's all opinion, if more wrestlers felt instead of thought, then I think it'd be a different story.
What kind of music you listen to?
My favorite band's Tool. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Jesus Christ, my wife is the biggest fan of Tool in the world.
Is that right?
I don't know how many times she's seen them in concert. Unbelievable.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
But it makes you feel something. Mm-hmm. You're not just listening to them. Mm-hmm. But that's the same thing with me. I'm a big Stevie Ray Vaughan fan. I mean, I can listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan and I can feel it. Mm-hmm. Especially when I watch it on YouTube. It's like, God damn, that's something it's just awesome. So same thing with a match. Now, you can have a bunch of guys going through there, but you got to feel what they're doing. And through the power of television and through storylines and angles and, back in the day, vignettes they could do to introduce a guy to the crowd. The more background you know about someone, something, where they come from, how they got there, what they believe in, what they stand for, all of a sudden these guys go into action and, you sell and register. It makes things mean more. You go there and do a bunch of shit arbitrarily, just for excitement. Only get you so far.
So I think everything is music, and I think wrestling's the same. You get tugged this way to get devastated that way, and the same emotional pull and feels that you get from it as the tempo's going up, and then bam, it drops like jazz music at the end. To me, I lecture my students on this all the time, and they think I'm crazy, but false finishes are jazz music. So you build an expectation, and then it changes the beat, and that's the jazz of wrestling. But you So yeah, it's music is feeling, wrestling is feeling. They're the same thing. It's this rhythm. It's a guttural, emotional thing. I think, anyways.
Hey man, that was live on the Indies, and then also with Ring of Honor. When you're at the big show and you're WWE, and then you get out on the road and you're independent, or Ring of Honor, with all due respect to Ring of Honor, it's a notch below the WWE.
Oh, yeah.
What were your thoughts leaving there and then getting out on your own for a while?
It's so at first you think it's liberating. I can go do whatever I want. I create my own schedule. I can act however. Nobody's telling me what to do anymore. So now I don't have this enemy on my shoulder because it was always their fault. That was me being irresponsible, or not even irresponsible, although irresponsible, but yeah, irresponsible because I wasn't taking responsibility for my own mistakes and actions. But then you realize, to me anyways, the Indies is a lot of times just doing stuff, and you could put it in a Yahtzee shaker, rearrange it. It doesn't make a difference what order it's in. Whereas the eloquence of the storytelling in WWE, the emotions, and how it's an emotion-driven company, this is how I feel wrestling should be, and this is where I want to be. And when I try to perform like that, and these people aren't there for that, they're there for fireworks, and you could have a blue firework, then a red, then a green, or a green, blue, and red. It doesn't matter what order. But I wanted a story behind it and emotions behind it, and WWE is where it's at. So it got to me. This is where I feel like not where I belong, but this is where my style of wrestling is suited for.
So what do you think when you got the final, hey man, Brian, hello, we want to come back?
I couldn't believe it. I've been trying for years, and it happened with the Cruiserweight thing. And all these guys were getting signed, and I didn't. And so they signed a dozen people. I still didn't get a contract. I had my last match in the Cruiserweight tournament, and they said, well, we might be calling you down the road, to do a shot here or there. I said, okay, thanks for the opportunity. I tried my best, and then I got a call saying that the boss watched the show. We'd like to bring you back. And I don't know how to put it. I've elated, obviously. Sense of relief, a sense of, I know I'm diverting, but when guys complain about what they have to do at the shows, what I tell them is try getting fired for 7 years and see how much you'd complain. So to be, and so Sami Zayn always quotes me on that, but so yeah, the 7 year scramble to that, I might have to just roll back down and carry that boulder up the hill again, and it might be a never-ending cycle to actually push that boulder up and get it off my shoulders. It's great.
What do you do to stay in shape, just as far as ring shape? When you go down there on Thursdays, you teach in school, whether you're on the road to WWE, but what does your training look like? Because how are you feeling, dude? You've been doing this damn near 20 years.
Yes, sir.
You're 38.
Yes, sir.
You got plenty of good years left in you.
I hope so.
But you got a lot of bumps on you. How you feeling?
I feel good. As far as like at the Cruiserweight tournament, I weighed in at 157 with boots and trunks on, or boots and tights. I'm in the 180s now. I've been doing this. It's called the hard gainer diet, so I do every body part every day. Been asking Jinder Mahal for diet tips.
What did he tell you? You got any diet tips to share with the brother?
Yeah, he does 7 meals a day. For him, it's 40 grams of carbs, 40 grams of protein. That's it. No added fats. So I just asked him this week about cardio. He says cardio first thing in the morning, empty stomach. So I start doing that this week. And then weightlifting an hour later. And, man, he looks like a freak. I've never seen veins in a chest before.
He looks like $1,000,000, man. But I've been hearing. I'm a little bit older than you. I've been hearing about the fasted cardio for years and years and years. Man, I'm on all the damn nutritional websites, all the damn shit, everything that you can read. It seems like I know. I'm not no pro bodybuilder. I ain't no scientist. I'm just a ex-wrestler sitting in front of you with a damn microphone in my hand. Fasted cardio. God damn. I can't make no excuses, but for some reason, I just ain't a morning person. When I get up, I set my alarm clock. Shit, I tell my wife, yeah, I'm going to start that fasted cardio tomorrow. And
always tomorrow.
Yeah, it's always tomorrow. And I did a podcast with the Navy SEAL Jocko Willink, and he was over in Afghanistan when all this shit was going down many years ago, not too many years ago. And every morning he gets up at 3:45. He takes a picture of his Casio G-Shock watch. It's 3:45 every goddamn morning. I'm thinking, man, I get up early. I get up about 5:36 every single morning, but I drink a coffee and I'm in there making breakfast.
Yeah.
Cardio, for me, roll out of bed and jump on my cycle. You see my bike over there in the corner. I ain't going to get on that son bitch until after I had a couple meals. So fasted cardio just ain't a part of my lifestyle, but I do get it in at some point during the day. So, Jinder, when next time I see you, maybe you can inspire me to get some fasted cardio in.
The part I told him I don't know I can commit to. He's 14 weeks without alcohol now. So, oh man, I could do cardio 6 a.m. before I could stop drinking beer.
little pause there, man. The brains are spinning. My brain's spinning. Yeah, I had a shot of whiskey last night, so it's been about 15 hours since my last drink. And you said you got 14 weeks. Hey, man, tell me about being married. You got married in, 2008?
Yes, sir.
And your wife used to wrestle.
Yeah, she did the first Tough Enough. Met on the indie show in Alaska.
God dang, Alaska?
Yeah, and she was a bitch, and she knows she was. She was just rude when I was trying to be nice, because I tried to be nice. Met her in Japan. She was living in the dojo. Came to one of the shows. Smo Joe and I were there. Her and this other lady, cheerleader Melissa, were out there. Their boss took us out to dinner. Oh, I don't drink, I say. She says, oh, what do you, some sort of, and just starts burying me. So then I start drinking, shove her into a bathroom. Next thing you know, we're in love. And we grew up in Washington State, 40 minutes from each other. So it was meant to be, yeah.
So did she end up being a makeup artist?
Oh, no. She went to makeup school for it. She manages a dispensary. So for a ex-pothead, it's a real twist of the knife. But I get asked this a lot since I was a big stoner back in the day. Like, is it hard? There would have been a time where it was hard because I tried quitting before. But now I've got what I love. There's nothing I love more than this. When we're done, I'm going to go watch more wrestling at my house. So even if I got fired, I don't know if I'd go back to smoking. I might never. I don't have the temptation anymore, and having this job, it's not even a concern. But that's what she does. She just manages a dispensary and makes my gear and designs my jackets and all that stuff and supports me fully.
She makes your gear for you?
Yeah. I've got, she tries to make me a new pair of tights every episode. So sometimes 2 a week. I've got maybe 70 pairs of tights right now. Yeah, just doing what you can to help.
If you was going to give somebody some advice who wanted to get in the pro wrestling business, because I get people sending me emails all the time to questions at steveaustinShow.com. If someone was to say, hey, Brian, I want to be a pro wrestler, what should I do? What would you tell them?
First, you're going to find a school. I guess that's the easiest way. That's the route to go. But when kids that are training, when they ask me, I said, you can't allow yourself any excuses. I'm sore. Well, this other guy's going to be sore, and he's going to show up. I'm tired. Or I've got to go flip burgers at Burger King today. Get a different job. If you want to be a pro wrestler, you have to fully commit. And to me, that's what it was. I committed fully, knowing that I'm not owed anything in life, but I owe it to myself to put in an honest effort, a full effort. And the dream's not going to chase you. You have to chase the dream. So that's what I subscribe to.
Hey, when you being a fan of the business, a fan of the history of the business, you mentioned Nick Bockwinkel a while ago. A lot of people 38 years old ain't never heard of Nick Bockwinkel, and that was a working son of a gun. He was one of my favorites. So looking back through the days, is there any territory that you grew up being a fan of? Like for me, I always tell people, my favorite wrestling back in the day, I didn't get WWF in the mid-'80s. I got NWA, I got Mid-South. Bill Watts over in Oklahoma, and God damn, man, the business was on fire way back then. There's some great matches. The Horsemen were running wild. Bill Watts had the Freebirds, and the Freebirds are going down to World Class Championship Wrestling as well, and they were lighting it up. Going back for you, and back in the day, or it could have been Attitude Era. I don't want to give you an era, but I don't want to force you back in the 80s. Is there a period of time, or is there a favorite match of yours? A lot of people go, hey, Macho Man Savage, what was it, WrestleMania 3? That vein. For you, what really connected with you from a match standpoint?
So I grew up in Washington State, and all we had was WWF on TV. So for me, a lot of it came later when I had access to stuff. If I have to pick my favorite, I'm going with the Trilogy 89 Steamboat Flair. And I was talking with a couple of the cruiserweights this week, Tony Nese, Arya Daivari. They said, watch it on mute. Just watch those 3 matches on mute. You'll notice there's no gaps with anything. It looks like that you would grab a headlock, that you would shoot them off. Everything looks, it all makes sense. It's all real. It's all dramatic. And having, Magnum TA call it might be distracting. These things you don't want to, hearing the crowd respond to this might be distracting. Mute it. Spend 2 hours. Watch those 3 matches. To me, 89 was a really good year for wrestling, but I love something in all of it. I also like the mid-90s All Japan heavyweights. I like Kawada, Misawa, Kobashi. The Attitude Era, I was in high school and getting into becoming a wrestler, and that was the biggest wrestling's ever been. So of course that's a magic time for wrestling. And I'm Gonna Kiss Your Ass. It all started, obviously Vince needs to have the vision to do everything that he's done, and his father and his father's father, but what made that explosion was you. And the idea of the Rock is huge and fantastic, Mick Foley and Hunter and Sean and all these guys, but I don't think the eyes would have been on them without you. And like I said, the way you move, I believe it. And there's something different about this guy. Mr. Perfect moves different, but this guy's a gunslinger. Meaning you are John Wayne, and stuck to your convictions, and people could identify with that. And I don't think there's ever been a wrestler where people could identify with like that. There's been a lot of heroes and guys that they adore and enjoy watching, but nobody who they could identify with like that. And so I don't know. I like a bit of everything.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. And, man, we had so much fun. I loved working with Vince. And, Vince always wanted to be in the business, but his dad didn't want him in the business. And, then Vince started promoting Bangor, Maine, way back in the day. His dad was having a hard time with that town. And he says, if you can make Bangor a success, I'll let you in the business. Okay, well, Vince gets in the business. And then, ends up buying the territory from his dad. And then he starts expanding. And, he had a bigger picture for the business. He had this great vision. And then all of a sudden he gets that call from Ted Turner. And I always love when Vince tells me this story. Ted called him because, they know each other because they're both high rollers with a lot of money and very, well-connected people. And Ted calls him up. He goes, Vince, guess what? Well, what, Ted? I'm in the wrestling business. And I'll never forget Vince's answer. He goes, well, that's good, Ted, because I'm in the entertainment business. But anyway, so, Vince had a vision for the business, and he was third-generation promoter. And all of a sudden he gets a chance, or just a chance happens. He didn't get the chance. There's just this chemistry that starts developing between, Mr. McMahon and Stone Cold. And then, we started doing the thing in that stunner in Madison Square Garden. And then, we started having matches, but just that chemistry and that feud. And it was just a powder keg that exploded. And, of course, like I said, man, we had a whole roster full of Hall of Famers. Some of them ain't in yet, but they'll be in. But it was just a great time in the business. But, man, I can't tell people, because people always go back to that feud, and that was a feud that kind of transcended the business, that even if you weren't a quote-unquote wrestling fan, at the water cooler, you was talking about what happened between, myself and Vince. So, man, it was a great time. So I thank you for that. But, man, it was just I was having a blast. I would get to Monday Night Raw every single week, and it was like, we were in the house show business, 5 days a week, 6 days, 7 days a week sometimes. We're doing double shots on Saturdays and Sundays. And, man, I love the business back when I was in it. I still love it, but, when you're in it, you're traveling. You turn into a zombie. You're just town to town to town. You get home, you want to go back out on the road. And then you think you burn out. You want to go home, you're home 2 days. Now you're ready to get back on the road. But and Monday Night Raw was like therapy. Man, I'd show up, man, what the fuck are you going to have me to do today? And tearing shit up or doing something with Mr. McMahon. So it was a blast. And here's a question for you. When I started getting hot, Taker was there, Sean was there, Brett was there, DX, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, all those guys. It was bad. Mick Foley, the whole crew. But then all of a sudden, here comes Nitro. They said they're going to go head-to-head with us. What were your thoughts, because you got in 99, Attitude Era or the Monday Night War started a little bit before that. As a fan of the business, what were you thinking?
Oh.
Like, holy shit's on, or are you flipping back and forth? What were you doing?
So I was a WWF guy, and so, you know, when Raw's 2 hours, Nitro's 3, I'll watch that hour of Nitro. Raw's in commercial break, I'm flipping back to Nitro, but I'm not missing a minute of Raw. Never did, never would. And the struggle with that was the cruiserweights. What made me believe I could be a wrestler, that I could actually do it, was I was taking a vacation with my grandfather and my aunt. We're down in San Antonio, Texas, go to a Mexican restaurant. And I said, can I sit there? They're showing wrestling. And they have a Mike Tenay package, coming soon, Rey Mysterio. I said, holy jeez, this guy, yeah, I can do this. So you might miss some cruiserweights. If I had to miss cruiserweights, I'll miss the cruiserweights. And luckily they were on the first hour anyways, but I was always a WWF guy. It just, since WrestleMania 6, that was it. That's what I lived for.
Hey, man, there's a couple of matches I'll drop on you, going back to what we were originally talking about, some of your favorite matches. I love that you said the Steamboat Flair trilogy. God damn it, that was awesome stuff. And those two guys, they couldn't have a bad match. They just couldn't. And I've never seen – I saw Flair – I saw an early match of Flair before he looked like Flair. And that was the only time I'd ever seen him kind of look green. He's my favorite pro wrestler, and I think he's the greatest world champion of all time, and he's my favorite pro wrestler. Shawn Michaels is the greatest in-ring performer, and there's a difference. Ric Flair was a shoot world champion, last guy to ever do it on the big circuit around the world, so he's my guy. Bring you to two matches he had with Barry Windham, who for about a 2-3 year stretch was as good as there was anywhere in the business. I believe one of them was, I think one was 88 and the other was 89. And if you give me your email address, I'll email them to you from YouTube. And I've recommended people watch them here on the show probably a year, 2-3 years ago. But, man, those two matches, you know which ones I'm talking about?
With the 1-2 foot on the ropes.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And also, both of them had a back bump over the rope. And Wyndham misses it one time but takes a sweet bump between the second and third. It's the same match you're talking about, the foot on the rope.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Wyndham on top, Flair, and Barry had his leg right there.
Yep.
And so there was
make the
Roper-Ruski.
count, they call it off.
God damn.
Yep.
And the way Flair left the ring with that victory, because he ends up winning. I think he had a handful of trunks. Threw a double roll-up out the corner. And so, but the way Flair got out of there, and he didn't ham it up. He knew he was lucky to escape by the skin of his teeth. Just the way he left the ring, just completely didn't play it up none. It was just a total shoot. So you know what matches I'm talking about. Wow, it's awesome. So, hey, man, your wrestling school, we're promoting that. We're going to promote you on Twitter. Mr. Brian Kendrick on Twitter. I just found your ass. I was like, man, Brian Kendrick. I got a computer. Oh, it's Mr. Brian Kendrick. Mister, I didn't call you Mister. I've been calling you the. Goddamn, I messed up.
And I don't even run it.
Should I call you Mister the Brian Kendrick?
Like I said, sir, you could call me bologna sandwich. I don't care. I'll still respect you. And I don't run my Twitter because my mouth's got me in too much trouble in the past. My wife runs all of it, but that's the Twitter. My school, I'm only just teaching my graduates, so there's really nothing there right now. There's nothing to promote. I came here to shoot the breeze, and I'm thrilled I got a chance to.
Man, I'm glad you came by, and God dang, this is me talking. This is Steve. Pirate T-shirt. Pirate T-shirt. Just think about it. Pirates. God damn. That's it.
I've been pushing it. Believe me, I even typed.
Hey, I got to give you a
picture
story.
it, boss. Picture it.
I never told you a story. You might have heard it before, but I'll tell you. When I first came to WWE a long time ago, it was F back then. When I first came to WWF, Mick Foley just signed on, Mark Henry, Vader, a couple other people. And, I just signed on as a ringmaster. And, they all had kind of plans for these other guys. And I was going to be the ringmaster, but they didn't see no merchandise. Mark had been to the Olympics in 96. And so there's red, white, blue stuff for him. And he's had a long, tremendous career. Shout out to Mark. But it didn't seem nothing to me. I just kind of, I was growing my hair back in ECW, and I remember Vince telling me, he goes, hey, man, before you come, maybe change something about you so you don't look the same. Vince always wants everybody to reinvent themselves for good reason. It's a new start. It could be the chance for something new and something big and something different. So anyway, Pulp Fiction just came out, so I gave myself a buzz haircut like Bruce Willis had. I wasn't trying to look like Bruce Willis, but I just had a buzz haircut. So I came in there. Anyway, I was the ringmaster, and I turned out to be real good friends with Jimmy Miranda, who was the merchandise guy back in the day, and Jimmy's no longer with us. And so we were very close, and Jimmy used to go to those shows, every single house show, every single television tape. And you talk about the guy hustling to push that merch, put all the, the spots to sell the gimmicks in the right places. And I'd go to him all the time and I'd say, Jimmy, I said, the office got any ideas or, thinking, they want to do a Steve Austin shirt? And nope, Steven, they don't. And every week or damn near every month I'd ask Jimmy about, them doing a Steve Austin shirt or a Ringmaster shirt. And finally, I came up with that famous promo at King of the Ring in 96, which was never supposed to happen, but it did.
Is that right?
No, because, the Triple H was going to win that back in 96, but that was when the click and everything happened in Madison Square Garden.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, so that's what happened, and I got my shot.
Wow.
And so I created Austin 316, and Stone Cold said so that night, and it was a fluke. And hell, if Mark Mara had to kick me in the mouth, and had I not gone to the hospital and got stitched up, and I was wrestling Jake in the finals, Jake cuts a religious promo on me. I'm rolling out of ambulance with my gear on, and Doc Hendricks, Michael PSA, he said, hey, when you were gone, Jake the Snake cut a religious promo on you. So boom, Austin 316 popped in my head. And then when I was trying to wrap that promo up, Vince was doing the commentating. Yeah. And he was on RF mic, but it was on pay-per-view in Milwaukee at the Mac Arena. And I can hear him trying to move on to the next match. And I'm thinking, hey, man, I need to button up his promo. So all of a sudden I just shit out, and that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so, just on a fluke, because I could hear Vince trying to take it back to live action. So anyway, finally Jimmy comes up to me and goes, Steven, guess what? I said, what? He said, the office finally wants to do a T-shirt for you. You got any ideas? And I said, you goddamn right I do. Put Austin 316 on the front and put a skull on the back and carve in Stone Cold. Okay, Steven, I'll tell the office. I'll be damned we didn't come out with that T-shirt and it sold a few.
Greatest selling T-shirt of any T-shirt of all times, right?
I don't know about that.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
T-shirts, not a smiley face, not a nothing.
Yeah, I got lucky. So, hey, pirate T-shirt. Think about it. Pirates. A flag waving in there. I don't know. We got to have something for the kid to sell here. I've been talking to the Brian Kendrick. Hey, man, it's a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate you coming over.
I'm thrilled, and I can't believe I'm doing this. Thank
hey,
you
man,
very
first
much.
guy that ever came over to my show and brought me some Broken Skull IPAs, my own beer, and a bottle of whiskey. What a tremendous show of generosity and thoughtfulness on your part.
I appreciate the opportunity and just the entertainment all these years, and it would be an insult not to.
Goddamn, I had so much fun doing that job. I could have done it for free, but I'm glad I did. Signing off with the Brian Kendrick. Mr. Brian Kendrick on Twitter, and that's the bottom line, because I said so. All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up this podcast and ride off into the sunset. But before I do that, I want to thank my guest, the Brian Kendrick, for coming over here to 317 Gimmick Street and helping me open up a can of Audio Wool Pass. It was nice talking to this guy. Took time out of his day to come over here, brought me some beer, brought me some whiskey, and I sure appreciate it. Brian, it was good talking to you. Goddamn, you talk about a hell of a damn worker inside the ring and a damn good promo. I'm going to give you guys something to watch. Get on the WWE Network and type in on the search engine Brian Kendrick versus Akira Tozawa. It's a match. I didn't see the street fight match, as I said. Just a straight-up match. It's a damn good match. Watch the work holds being employed here. Watch Brian Kendrick going for the nose, going for the ear, really working Akira over. He's selling like a sumbitch for him and then returning the favors. Damn good finish to the match. Just a nice piece of work. So that's my match for you to check out. And then also, like Brian said, go back and check out on YouTube. We can probably get on WWE Network as well. The trilogy between Nature Boy Ric Flair and Rick Steamboat. those were his 3 favorite matches, and I was glad he brought up those matches because, well, everybody knows about the Steamboat Flair chemistry, but for him to pull those names out of the air and put them in that trilogy was big for me. And also check out those Ric Flair, Barry Windham matches from 88, 89 as well. Bunch of shit for you to watch, but start off on a network watching that match of Brian Kendrick versus Akira Tozawa. Damn good match. Hey, man, I got some badass T-shirts for you over at ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin, and we're fixing to have some brand new ones because we're about to start Season 5 of Steve Austin's Broken Skull Challenge, and this show is the baddest, toughest, coolest show on television, and if you think you got what it takes to be a part of it, get on CMT.com, jump through the hoops, find out how you can come out there and be a badass with the toughest sumbitches in the world. Hey, if you're thirsty, I got a good beer for you. It's Steve Austin's Broken Skull IPA. And you can get it right here in L.A. or Cali if you go to Whole Foods and Total Wines. If you aren't in Cali, check out InsideTheCellar.com and see if they ship to your state. Or if you're in the L.A. area, stop in El Segundo Brewing Company, 140 Main Street, El Segundo, and have a beer with Rob and the crew. And everything Steve Austin related, you can find at BrokenSkullRanch.com, and that includes the Cold Steel Broken Skull knife and the Working Man knife. 2 badass knives, different price points, same high quality. Hey, when I get a chance to ride, I ride Kawasaki mules. And I got to say one more thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. And you can find all my sponsors at podcastone.com. Just click on the Killer Deals button at the top of the page and then click on the Steve Austin Show banner. Hey, folks, keep listening. The 60-second AP News headlines are coming up next. Until then, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com.
California wildfires. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. Wildfires are burning in both southern and northern California. James Cook, who lives in Santa Rosa in the state's celebrated wine country, says more than 100 of the mobile homes in a park he manages have been destroyed.
It looks like a bomb went off. There's nothing left.
Some 1,500 buildings known to have burned. At least 10 people are dead. At least 2 wineries have been destroyed, many others damaged. Several homes have burned in a wildfire in Anaheim that covers about 4 square miles. The wife of an Allman Brothers Band founding member is serving a 30-day jail sentence for threatening members of a rowing team in Florida. News outlets report that 62-year-old Donna Betts, wife of guitarist Dickie Betts, is in the Sarasota County Jail after pleading no contest to aggravated assault with a deadly weapon without intent to kill. She had pointed a rifle toward about 100 teens and coaches from the Sarasota rowing crew. Her horse is